The start of free agency is officially a month away. We are going to talk big dreams that the Rangers might have their sights set on a few free agents and then some realistic options for the club. But last night, the Mets did wrap up the wild card round, and they've got a date with the Phillies in the NLDS. All of this and more on the DLLS Rangers podcast. Well, they're not third in Major League Baseball in comebacks for nothing. Last night, the Mets did take the final game of the wild card round, and like I said, they do have a date with the Phillies. You know, I was kind of looking forward to some bragging rights coming into today. I was on Team Brewers last night. The Mets did get the job done. Abby Jones alongside Jeff Wilson, J-Dub as we like to call him, John Radigan, still on vacation.
Yeah.
Being a part of some holy matrimony, and then hoping to have him back in the studio next Tuesday.
I think maybe Wednesday. He's taking some extra days off here, and
he deserves it.
Yeah, he deserves it. He's earned it. He's paid his dues.
He has. He's in the Hall of Fame.
That's right.
But no, we've loved hanging out with you guys. Thanks for hanging out, chatting with me and Jeff. Let's be sure to get those comments going. We love hearing from you guys. It is such a fun time of the season. Wild card is officially wrapped up. Let's talk about that game last night. In true Mets fashion, they had a 6% chance of winning going into the ninth inning. And then Pete Alonso with the shot heard around the world.
Yeah, it's playoff baseball. It's hard to predict. And really you feel bad for the Brewers because they've had some rough exits here in recent history. The 2019, it looked like they were moving on, going to beat the Nationals in the division series and our wild card game. I don't remember. And Juan Soto was in the mix here and ended up with a single that turned into an error and a bunch of runs scored and pandemonium and really the Nationals won the series. They ended up winning the World Series because of that. It was such a they were on the verge of being eliminated, and all of a sudden they go on and win the World Series. So and then this loss of the Brewers, giving up 4 in the ninth. They had a 2-0 lead, and their ace closer on the mound, Devin Williams, and Pete Alonso got him. And we can go a lot of different ways with that. We can talk about the pitch tipping that you've been studying, and it doesn't surprise me if that is what the case was. And John Boy, that video show, we put together a lot of evidence to suggest that the Mets were onto something. And it wouldn't be the first time. John Gray, when the Mets were in town this year, they just beat the snot out of John Gray, and John Gray was convinced that he was tipping his pitches somehow. And that's okay. If you're not stealing signs is something else.
Right.
Seeing something that the pitcher's doing and taking advantage of it is entirely different. And scouts get paid a lot of money, and I'm sure that as soon as the Mets realized they were in playoff contention, so probably pretty much all of September, they were scouting the heck out of teams they could potentially play because they likely weren't going to catch the Phillies, so they probably started scouting the Brewers and the division winners, and they might have picked something up. And
it seems like they did.
It's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it was the most minuscule thing. You really wouldn't even notice it unless you were trained to notice those things, which it seemed like is what the Mets did. It's a pretty interesting breakdown if you have the time to look into it. I actually phoned a friend in the minor leagues, and I've obviously never stepped up to the plate, and I'm like, walk me through this realistically. Yeah. How much time do you have to realize these small minor things with mechanics that maybe can tip a pitch. And he said, you have a lot more time than you think that you do. And, you know, if I asked why would a pitcher put himself in that position in such a high pressure situation, such as the game and the season is on the line, why would he allow his mechanics to kind of step in the way and give the hitter a 1% advantage? And could come down to muscle memory. Maybe he's not aware that he is doing it, or heck, maybe he is aware and he's so dang good that he says, well, it doesn't really matter if I tip my pitches anyway. They're not going to hit what I toss them. So, you know, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to go there. But let's walk you through what kind of happened last night. It was a good outings for the starting pitchers.
Yeah.
Tobias Myers of the Brewers, you know, he was a little bit better than I thought he was kind of going to be.
Our guy, Toby.
Toby. We mentioned 2 years ago he was in the minor leagues with a 7.9 ERA, and he was able to get through 5. Quintana, we know exactly who he is. 6 innings pitched. This was actually the 4th game in a winner-take-all scenario that it was scoreless through 6.
Oh, really?
And just with this Mets series, I mean, you thought, gosh, are they ever going to, you know, well, the first game they scored a lot, but it's like they just didn't really have a lot of offensive power until Pete Alonso stepped up. But before that, Quintana gets out of his 6 scoreless, and then the Brewers throw in a relief guy, and he gives up 2 back-to-back home runs on back-to-back pitches to one a pinch hitter and then another guy off the bench. So
at that point you're like, okay,
right,
they've got some magic going.
Yes.
You know, and it's set up perfectly for them because again, their advantage, the Milwaukee advantage, was the bullpen.
Yeah.
You know, that's why they only let Myers pitch 5 innings. They didn't want him to face the lineup a third time. The numbers are pretty dramatically against him, but they could just turn it over to their guys who've been there for them all year, and it doesn't work. You know, you can line things up. It's nothing the manager did. Pat Murphy didn't do anything wrong. You know,
right.
You can line it up, set it up the exact way you want it, but the players still have to go out there and execute. And you know, Williams, I think this is the 2nd home run he'd given up all year, or 3rd home run. He'd only given up 4 runs in his career twice in an inning, and then he goes and does it in just a huge situation. And he had pitched the night before. I don't know if that had an effect, but again, with no day off, I mean, closers go back to back pretty often, so that really shouldn't be an excuse. But their stuff definitely is not as good the second day. So maybe that was it. You know, these pitches, whether they were tipped or not, the pitches that the Mets got hits off of, they were changeups that were over the middle of the plate. I mean, it's not like Pete Alonso, you know, miraculously hit a pitch that bounced or something like that. I mean, it was thigh high and you know, over the plate. So if he was going to make contact, he was going to hit it out. Same thing with Brandon Nimmo's single, the batter before. It was a changeup. Yes, that's maybe where the pitch tipping came in, but it wasn't a good changeup. It caught a lot of the plate. So, you know, you still got to execute.
Yes,
and see, you know, but again, hats off. You know, if it was a tip pitching situation, the scouts saw something. You know, you can go all the way back to the '88 World Series when Kirk Gibson hit the home run off of Dennis Eckersley to you know, send the Dodgers into a victory after Canseco would hit a grand slam. Anyway, the Dodgers scout at the time, who later ended up working for the Rangers, Mel, noticed during his advanced scouting that in a certain count that Eckersley would try to throw a backdoor slider to left-handed hitters. Mel Didier was the scout, and that's exactly what happened. And Gibson got it and hit it out. So, you know, these scouts are good.
Yeah, that's just playing the
they
numbers
notice
game.
Stuff.
Yeah.
And whether it's a tendency or whether it's the way he holds the ball in his glove and how the glove is held, which is what John Boy is speculating was the case. So, gosh, you know, but
it does come down to execution, though.
Yeah,
to your point,
absolutely. Yeah, and the batter has to hit the ball, you know.
Right.
So, yeah. So there's a lot that goes into it, but you know, any advantage, hey, you got to take it. This is a big time of the year.
It is, and also just where it was hit for Pete Alonso, it was the 24th opposite field home run of his career. Did you know that?
No, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So, and prior to that, the Mets were scoreless in 15 consecutive innings.
Oh, wow.
So, the Mets, we saw it the last day of the regular season with that doubleheader with Atlanta.
Right,
That had to be the
right.
most back and forth ball game I've seen all season long.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, prior to the ninth inning, the Mets had a 6% chance of winning, but they are the third best comeback team in baseball. This goes to show why that record stands true.
Yeah.
And, it's also, you got to mention that what was the record, 8-4 for the home team
In those games,
and
yeah.
those and winner take all,
Yeah.
and 2-1. So, it's not like it's an easy environment. And I don't know if you saw last night, but Pete Alonso missed a pop up, and Brewers fans were laughing in his face. He was, running in to the. Did you see it?
I did not.
Oh my gosh, no! He literally effort was there, but just missed the opportunity.
Yeah.
And they were seriously laughing in his face. And then he got the last laugh with a 3-run home run to end their hopes and dreams in Milwaukee.
So the way I wanted to kind of take this direction, and we can get into it a little bit here and a little bit more in the next segment, is Pete Alonso is going to be a free agent.
He is.
And he's probably one of the top free agents. If you look at the whole class of guys who are going to be free agents or can be free agents, he's going to be at the top of the list. A guy who hits a ton of home runs. There you go. Probably Juan Soto, I think, is the clear runaway best free agent. Corbin Burns, the best pitcher. And then, Snell, I think, has an option. Fried's a unrestricted free agent. So is Alonso. So, Juan Soto's basically 2 teams are going to be competing for him, maybe 3, depending on how creative the Dodgers get again. But Pete Alonso, a right-handed power hitting first baseman. He's
enticing.
Could the Rangers be enticed to throw some money at him? And we talked yesterday about the arbitration deal with Nathaniel Lowe, and he's not a bad player, but can you do better? Yeah. Is Pete Alonso better?
Yeah.
He offensively definitely is. So, it's worth thought. It's worth speculating. Now, he's probably going to get a ton of money.
Yeah.
And the Rangers probably aren't going to want to go there, but depending on how the TV money works out, the money coming off the books, Nathan Eovaldi is probably going to be the top target, but it just seems like, hey, at least take a look at it, right?
You have to consider it.
Yeah.
You have to consider it. Now, we did look, and I just don't know how much we should save for the next part, but he's a $20 million guy, so it is an investment.
Yeah, he's gonna, he comes with the high price tag. I'm sure the Mets are going to be one of the suitors. They don't want to lose a guy who's just absolute fan favorite.
It's rumored that he'll re-sign.
Yeah, that's the speculation right now because the Mets do have the money. Or even if they don't, their owner doesn't care. Steve Cohen just likes to go out and spend the money. And they had they got rid of Scherzer last year and Verlander in anticipation of maybe going for it more down the road. Well, this is down the road, and they probably knew, hey, Pete Alonso is probably someone we're going to want to keep. So let's free up some money now because it's going to take a while. He is represented by Scott Boras, so Scott always drags these things out, gets the most money for his guys. If Marcus Semien and Corey Seager have anything to say about it, both Boras guys, maybe they'll call Pete Alonso and say, hey, we've got a pretty good thing going on here. You might have noticed we won the World Series last year.
Bruce Bochy does have a track record.
Yeah. So, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's not impossible.
It's not really out of the question.
It's kind of fun to think about, just a guy.
I can
like
fantasize about this kind of first baseman all day long.
Well, there you go. Then let's go ahead and do it. Let's.
Can you imagine having that bat in the lineup?
That'd be pretty good. The Rangers did have some problems offensively. We might have heard this season. So I mean, okay. So then let's take that a little bit further just for a second. Where would you put him in the lineup? Because when Lowe was, hitting great, he was third. It was Semien, Seager, Lowe, Garcia. Well, I'm sure you'd want Alonso to get as many at bats as possible. Put him in a position behind Seager, maybe. So third wouldn't be a bad spot for him. It'd look pretty good. And I don't know. But that's something we can talk
It's
about in this
fun,
next
fun to
segment, you know,
speculate.
but it is fun to speculate.
Fun to speculate. Well, we will get into that and a lot more coming up on the DLLS Rangers podcast.
All right, fellas, it's time for some real talk here. All right. We're, you know, some of us are getting older. Some of us still like to have fun. And, but some of our parts sometimes don't work. So we're here to help, though, with Blue Chew. You know, it's uncomfortable to talk about this kind of a situation with ED, and it's a very discreet thing. Fortunately, Blue Chew is here to help. It helps boost your confidence in the bedroom so you can perform at your very best, keep your partner happy. Does Blue Chew work? Well, if you're asking that question and you want to know, Blue Chew is putting their money where their mouth is by giving you a free month. Blue Chew is an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in chewable form. It's simple. You sign up at bluechew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. These things go straight to your door. And the best part, it's done online, so no visits to a doctor. You don't have to feel too uncomfortable. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code ALLCITY at checkout. Just pay the $5 for the shipping. That's bluechew.com, promo code ALLCITY to receive your first month free. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast.
And I am an Alabama girl, so I'm very familiar with Rowback. It's kind of the number one shirt that I see when I go home, but it is your go-to polo for golfing, for tailgating, for, hey, just Monday at the office or anything like that. They perform better than any other polo. They have a wicking fabric, so you're not going to get too hot. They look clean, but they have the elastic, so you're not going to be trapped inside the shirt. Yep. Incredible deals. Go to Rowback. That's Rowback with an H, DLLS 20 for 20% off on your purchase.
And Rowback, because I'm now on their email list because I bought a hat from them. They are, this weekend, they have a collection of stuff, and 50% of the proceeds are going to the hurricane
victims. Oh, that's amazing.
In the Southeast. And as we talked about yesterday and I wrote today at DLS, the Hickory Crawdads, the Rangers A-ball affiliate, are
giving back,
doing an auction. I made my bid yesterday, and somebody outbid me, so I had to rebid this morning. So okay. You know, we're fighting. I'm tooth and nail with somebody apparently. But check out alldls.com/Rangers to get details on that.
Perfect. All right, let's talk about the top free agents of 2024 offseason and 2025 season ahead. I know that we did show the graphic, but let's go ahead and get that back up because it is fun to dream.
It is. And you know, Soto, huge money. Rangers aren't going to get in there. Corbin Burns probably aren't going to get in there. He's a first-time free agent. Snell's an interesting one because I think he has a player option to stay at the Giants, but coming off of his season, I would expect that he would take free agency, even though it was a nightmare for him last year. And then Max Fried. I'm not sure I like Max Fried, honestly. Okay. He's not bad, but I'd stay away from him. So those
do
that's the.
Do you think he's overhyped?
Yeah, I don't know that he's as. I've never felt like he's an elite pitcher in the game. Now, more realistically, let's get more realistic. I mean, Ray Davis, we want to spend his money on all those guys, right? But now, what's more real?
Santa said no.
What is more realistic? We have the graphic of some potential free agent targets that the Rangers could go after, and there you go. And then, you know, Nathan Eovaldi's at the top of the list, and he's not going to come cheap. Okay, he's not a top 5 free agent, but he's probably top 10, top 15. You know, and once those 3 starting pitchers are off the board, or you know, maybe some people have Eovaldi in their top 3. I would imagine the Rangers do, and he's going to be their number 1 target. Kirby Yates, you'd hope the Rangers could find a way to keep him after his spectacular season. So those are the top 2 guys. The Rangers have a little advantage because they're, you know, their own free agents. And I wonder though, you know, like if Eovaldi takes free agency, I'm going to guess the Rangers are going to make him the qualifying offer.
Right.
You know, just it's smart business. I think the qualifying offer this year is $21 million. If he's going to turn down 20, he's going to turn down $21 million. So if he signs somewhere else, the Rangers will get some compensation. So that's just a business formality. But I think that the Rangers are going to do whatever they can to keep him. You know,
I agree, because what kind of spot would that put the Rangers in if he didn't resign?
right? Well, then you're probably looking for Andrew Heaney, maybe Jack Flaherty, who has had a rebound season, is familiar with Mike Maddox. There are other starters out there, but you know, the Rangers know what they got in Evaldi. They know what they want. They know what they want with Evaldi, and then other positions. Okay, closer definitely has to be addressed. As I put Blake Trinan on there because he's just a really good pitcher when he's healthy. That's the big caveat with him is his health. If you look at his numbers,
1.9 ERA.
Yeah, you look at his numbers this year at the Dodgers.
Strikeouts.
Yeah, and he doesn't have that many innings because in spring training against the Rangers, Sam Huff hit a line drive and hit him in the chest. And like broke his ribs or something, and bruised his lung. I don't remember what it was, but it took a little while for him to get over it. And but anyway, the stuff is just filthy. It's power stuff. He could replace David Robertson if Robertson were to go somewhere else. He could probably close. He's closed in the past. Oh, we can't give Nathan Eovaldi a qualifying offer because he's already had one. Well, thank you, Coop. All right.
I do feel like Coop's our researcher.
Well,
shout out to Coop.
I definitely didn't research that one, but I'll take it, Coop. And he's right. I mean, yeah, because 22, when the Rangers signed him, they forfeited a draft pick. All right. Thank you, Coop.
So,
but anyway, the point of the matter is
McCann would be great.
The Rangers need a catcher, right?
Here we go.
So James McCann, not Brian McCann. Brian McCann was the great Braves catcher. James McCann, former Tigers
James McCann's
catcher.
my buddy.
Abby's buddy.
If James McCann signs, we will get him on the show.
Okay.
I can guarantee that.
Well, he's been with the Orioles.
Yes.
He's been with the Mets since leaving the White Sox. And big guy, tough guy.
Just celebrated his 10 years of service time.
10 years of service time. So he could probably he's used to a reduced role after his Tigers years. So I think that one makes a lot of sense.
I really do too.
If you want a veteran guy to back up Jonah Heim and probably be not a true backup in the sense that he's only going to play 30, 40 times. Probably, somebody could handle 70 games, just try to get a 60-40 split in playing time with Heim. I think that one makes a lot of sense. So, and then the Rangers need a right-handed hitting outfielder that we talked about. And I put Tommy Pham on the list because Tommy Pham can also play in the infield. He's a utility guy, a lot like in the vein of Josh Smith and Ezekiel Duran, except he's a veteran, so he knows how to, handle things and take care of his body and keep his swing in check. I don't know if he would want reduced playing time, but with the way the Rangers outfield is setting up, with Carter and Langford, Carter and Tavares unable to hit left-handers, it seems like there'd be a lot of at-bats for Tommy Pham, and then if somebody were to get injured, which always happens, Tommy Pham would be a heck of a guy to stick in there.
Going back to McCann, you know what I just thought of?
What's that?
DeGrom.
Yeah, sure.
I think that could be
prior relationship. Yeah. Hey, there are a lot of things that come into play. Yeah, and and I'm sure that the Rangers would consider that with any of these guys. What are the previous relationships like? Mike Maddox having go back to the trade deadline in 20. He had Max Scherzer and then with the Nationals, and then he had Montgomery and Chris Stratton with the Cardinals. Mm-hmm. So there's a familiarity there. Even Andrew Kisner, the catcher this year, had worked with Mike Maddox with the Cardinals. So there's
Carson Kelly mentioned that he spent a lot of time with the Rangers coaching staff too, and so it's like prior relationships are so important as well.
You want to make these guys feel comfortable, especially at a trade deadline where they're coming into cold and having to learn, in Kelly's case, learn the whole pitching staff and learn what their offensive approach is. Well, he knew Donnie Eckert from the minor leagues, so there's always ties and a lot of things that come together. But the fact of the matter is the Rangers have to do some things this offseason through free agency, whether they have a lot of money or not. And so some of those options I put on the graphic are going to be cheaper options. I think Blake Trinan's making $8 million this year. All right, that's roughly what the Rangers owe David Robertson. McCann, not sure what his deal is, but it's probably not going to break the bank on a one-year deal. One-year deals don't hurt that much. It's Evaldi and Yates are the two you kind of have to throw
James
some
McCann is
resources
$4
in.
million,
Yeah, $4 million. You can handle that.
which is what Heim wants $4 million.
Well, that's the projected arbitration number is 4.8, I think. So, it's that's pretty affordable for two
So
catchers.
what's more
That's not bad.
enticing to you? Catcher filling that role or first base?
It just seems like there's more of a need at catcher.
Yeah.
I don't think you want to run Heim into the ground. Bruce Bochy talked about that Tuesday, saying, catcher's hard, it's demanding, and
It takes the biggest toll.
He did a lot for the Rangers at 20 and 23, especially the last month, and then the postseason, and then didn't have the extra month to rebound. So, it's if you want to read between the lines, read the tea leaves, and then that's something that the Rangers seems like they want to address. And Sam Huff, as big a fan as we are of Sam Huff, or I am, he just didn't have a very good year at AAA. So there's some things there that need to be answered. And I don't know if they think that Huff is the guy to do it.
There's a difference of a backup veteran catcher.
There
and
is,
somebody out of
sure.
AAA. And no disrespect to Sam Huff, big fan of that guy as well, but that's not an apples to oranges conversation. And I think the club would have the experienced one 10 times out of 10.
Yeah.
So
but
another thing to point up or talk about is Marcus Semien with days off. Who do you think would be the most realistic utility, throw that guy in as any kind of day?
Well, the good news is the Rangers have guys. Josh Smith can play second base. Duran can play second base. And so they're okay there. Those guys aren't arbitration eligible yet. They're still pre-arb guys, so they're going to be less than $1 million. And if money is an issue, as you anticipate it's going to be with the TV uncertainty, then those guys really fit and fill a mole, a need. They're probably also attractive to other teams. And if the money isn't there for the Rangers to go out and spend lavishly in free agency, then maybe they have to make a deal. Maybe one of these smaller market teams. I really think like Josh Smith would be a perfect Cleveland Indian or Milwaukee Brewer. Guardian, damn it. Anyway, something like that. A team that will want a guy who's has ceiling, and who is under club control, and maybe they have a free agent that they're not going to be able to sign here in the next 2 years. So you kind of get what you can while his value is the highest. Well, Josh Smith's value isn't going to be any higher than right now. It's never been this high. So maybe that's something that happens. I'm not saying they need to go out and trade him, but if they're going to consider all their options, and if Evaldi signs somewhere else, but there's a starting pitcher out there who the Rangers feel like can give them a bunch of quality innings, and it takes Josh Smith, you got to look at it. So we'll see what happens, though. But this is the fun time of the year for fans, not necessarily beat writers, because you're chasing down rumors and trying to get callbacks that never come. But it's the hot stove league, as they call it. Guys moving around, deals getting made. We have time until it really comes on in earnest. Players become free agents. The last out of the World Series, free agents become free agents, and then they have 5 days before they can sign with any team. 5-day kind of exclusive window where the only team that can sign them would be the team that they're leaving, and then it opens up. The GM meetings are right after, so that's kind of where the deals start to happen. All the agents go to the GM meetings, and then GMs talk to other GMs and talk trades and all that stuff and get a feel for it. And then that November to the week before Christmas area is when you typically see a lot of deals get done. Last year was different because of the Ohtani and Yamamoto situations, but so we have some time to catch our breath and get ready and brace for it. But it's coming.
It is.
Yes, and it comes
fast. Might do a
fast.
few emergency pods here soon.
Yes, definitely.
Here soon. More to come on the DLS Rangers podcast. We're going to be talking about the Arizona Fall League. Rosters just announced, and we'll get into all of that and more.
But first, we gotta sell some stuff, and that's all right. Help pay some bills, and we do that with. I lost my spot.
Empire
Empire
Today.
Today. Hard to imagine not having Empire as a partner at this point. They're so good with their flooring. I wish you could see the hardwood floors they laid down for us here. And it's just they're an industry leader in our area. They do so much good work, and they make it really easy for you with at home convenience, guarantees, quality people. They have their own guys filling out, putting in your flooring, whether it's hardwoods or whether it's carpet. And when you deal with them, you're dealing with experts in the field. You're not dealing with a guy who
Or a robot.
might have just been helping somebody, or robots, buy a toilet. You're this guy, whoever you deal with, man, lady, they're going to know exactly what you need. And use the virtual floor designer, because it's a great way to see what any space in your house looks like. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive $350 off when they use the code DLLS. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/DLLS for details.
Perfect. And go ahead and become a diehard. Please join us. Upgrade your fandom, because it comes with a ton of cool perks. You can get the best, most exclusive content. Mark Stein just did a one-on-one with Jason Kidd. Jeff writes plenty behind the paywall, and you're going to want to know the ins and outs of what's happening with the Rangers this offseason. You get a free shirt every single year, discounts on events, 20% off on those events, and merchandise as well. A membership card just to prove it, and add something else to your wallet if you carry a wallet these days. And access to members only Discord, so you can join today at alldlls.com. So now it's time for fall baseball.
Fall baseball. Yeah.
My little nephew started fall ball.
Oh,
very proud of him.
Henry, my son, is 2 tournaments into their season. It's a shorter season for the 12-year-olds, but than the spring, at least. So, but yeah, the Arizona Fall League starts Monday night. The Rangers have 8 players there. The surprise Saguaros.
I was going to let you
are
pronounce
the Rangers team. The Rangers, they use the Rangers clubhouse and facilities for the Fall League team, the surprise Fall League team. And Surprise won the title last year. Carlos Cardoza, the Frisco manager, he was the manager of that team, and guys like Abby Ortiz and Emiliano Teodo were on that roster. And then the Fall League is like great prospects who are getting more at bats and more exposure, and also it's an opportunity for guys who are hurt to during the season to catch up on innings and kind of be ready for spring training. And so when you look at the Rangers group of 8 players who are going this year, Alejandro Ozuna, who is their player of the year, he played a full season, but
he's
build
the number 1
on some
prospect
momentum
for Rangers there.
And then Josh Steven from Grand Prairie, he was injured this year. Mark Church, who made his MLB debut over the weekend, he was injured, so he's going to get some extra time there. Leandro Lopez and Avery Weems, also pitchers who are going to be just building up some more arm strength, getting their innings, getting their reps, working on stuff at the same time. Skylar Hales, who is a hard-throwing reliever, he had a full season, but he's out there to keep working on his slider. And the fastball's 100 miles an hour. He's got a chance to be in the big leagues next year. And then there are some guys who are Rule 5 eligible, who Rangers are weighing whether to protect them or not. But if they let him go out there and play in the Fall League and they do well, other teams might want to trade for him. So there's some there's some
incentives.
Yeah, it's not just about player development. It's roster management and all of that. So
because at the end of the day, baseball is a business.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So Max Acosta, who signed in 2019, might have been 18. Gosh, time flies. But anyway, he's a Rule 5 eligible guy. Do the Rangers want to add him to the 40? Cody Freeman, who had a great kind of breakout year at Frisco, the Rangers minor league defensive player of the year, had a really good offensive season. He's Rule 5 eligible? Do the Rangers want to protect him or not? Be interesting to see how that plays out. But The fall league is really good. It's
Yeah.
some games will get on TV late. They'll have an all-star team, and again, it's where guys launch themselves into the next season, get on the map. Owen White, for instance, in 2021 pitched there, didn't allow an earned run. He was the pitcher of the year, and it wasn't even close. Last year, Emiliano Toyoto also didn't allow a run, and he had a spectacular year this year.
Coop just had a question
Yeah,
about
to
him.
answer
Yeah.
Coop's question, I think that he will be in the big leagues. He's Rule 5 eligible. He's going to be added. There's no question about it. I think the slider is still coming together. And he needs the third pitch, the changeup. But I think that at some point you could see him in the bullpen, if nothing else. But they also were a little, he was injured a little bit in 23, so he didn't pitch a full season. So this year, what a full season was for him probably isn't the full season that the Rangers would have liked for him to get. They kind of cut him off and shut him down a little bit, limited his innings. So that's a consideration too. But if you're going to be on the 40-man roster, you're a sore elbow away from joining the big league team. So I would look for him to be on the roster in 2025 at some point.
Right. And this is such a good opportunity for those guys because it's all about their development, and that's really key here. And 14 of MLB's top 100 prospects will be, playing in the fall league. And on a very small scale, I'll make a little comparison. When we had the All-Star game here, I was talking to the guys and I was like, the younger ones that hadn't been there before. And I was like, what are you most looking forward to? You're around some of the best players in the game all in one room at one time. And they're like, I just want to ask a million questions. I want to be a sponge. And, it's not the same scale as that by any means. But it is really, really great to see so many other people in your same boat working so hard for those spots. Like you said, going into spring training with goals and things like that. So it's huge for, their development as well as just their day-to-day grind.
Yeah, and a lot of these guys have been top draft picks, have maybe encountered some difficulties for the first time in their careers. Take Avery Weems, for instance. He was injured with Tommy John surgery and came back from that and was all fired up and ready to go, and he hurt his finger, of all things, and had to have surgery, so he missed most of the year and then came back kind of at the end. But somebody can bounce off him who's coming off of injury, or how did you deal with that? And help me get over this mental block, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a legit thing. And then on the top draft picks, Jack Caglione, the Royals, I think he was the 6th overall pick this year from Florida, the big power hitter. He probably hasn't had a lot of failure in his life, so get him to see these top players. Give him a challenge, probably more challenging than anything he saw this year in the minor leagues. But get around, learn other guys, and learn other organizations. The one thing that Carlos Cordoza has said about his experience as the manager last year is that the Rangers wanted him to talk to the other coaches from other organizations who are on his staff and learn their processes, hear from players what they do and what works for them. It's really, it's not just an opportunity for the players, it's the coaches too. And John Goebel, who's the AA pitching coach in Frisco, he's going to be the pitching coach for the surprise team. And so it's just good all around. It really is. You just don't see a lot of negatives with this league. And occasionally there are injuries. Aaron Zavala got hurt there a couple of years ago and ended up having to have Tommy John surgery, which has kind of set him back a little bit. But for the most part, there are no negatives with the fall league. Right.
And the teams that you're referring to is the Astros, Guardians, Orioles, and the Royals are part of this league with the Rangers. But the number one prospect for the Rangers going is Azuña. And you wish you were out when the minor leagues got their awards.
I was not there that day. I
got to talk to him. Great young man. But he has so much hope and promise here. He won the minor league player of the year. He was hitting .292 with 18 home runs, 17 steals in 102 games between high A and double A.
Yeah.
He was compared to Yankees outfielder Alex Vertigo, who he idolizes. And, for him to just expand on his game here, it really does further their development and kind of put it on a little bit of a fast track.
That's pretty interesting about Verdugo because you do see a lot
You
of
see a comparison?
similarities.
Yeah.
Both left-handed hitters, outfielders.
He lit up. He was like, really?
Yeah,
You know,
they do.
like he was very honored with
You know,
the
some power, not a lot. Just
Yeah.
kind of gritty guys, can steal a base. Yeah, and really Osuna has never been regarded as this top prospect. You know, you could probably name a bunch of outfield prospects just from memory who have received more hype than Osuna, who's from Mexico, has the bloodlines. You know, he has an uncle, Antonio, his younger brother, Roberto Osuna,
all-star.
who's an all-star, but ran into some domestic issues and really kind of flamed out of the league after those came about. But yeah, so it's in the blood. And again, he's just a ball player. You know, he's a really good defensive player. He'll steal you a bag. He'll hit a home run. He'll hit for average. Maybe not the flashiest tools, but you put it all together and you got a quality ball player. So
he's a unit too.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how he develops, how he handles the league, how he handles AAA next year. I'm going to assume that he's going to get an invitation to big league spring training, just as a reward for what he did and being closer to the major leagues and on the radar now. So yeah, a great opportunity for him, but a great opportunity for all of these guys. And if I'm going to watch three guys there, I'm going to watch him, Church, and Hales, because they could really be in the major leagues next year. But again, what's going to happen with Acosta 40-man wise when it comes time to protect for the Rule 5 draft? That's an interesting thought. And then Josh Stephen was kind of on a fast track, not a fast track, but he was moving the right way. Then he hurt his back last year and then dealt with some more injuries this year. So just because he's local from Grand Prairie, you pull for a guy like him. And he's kind of a neat story too, because in 2020, the draft was shortened to 5 rounds. And so, there were, for the first time, MLB permitted teams to sign players, an unlimited amount of players, but the maximum was $20,000. So here's Josh, fresh out of high school. He has a deal to go to Stephen F. Austin, but college scholarships aren't great. He could have taken gambled on himself and gone to college and tried to improve his draft status for the 2022 or 2023 draft. But he said, "The hell with this! I'm taking the money.
I'm taking the $20K."
and so he went and got right into the system. And slowly they've built him up. He added velocity. He filled out. He's a big, thick guy. And so if he can stay, if he can get healthy, he's got a chance to move. He'll probably be back at Frisco next year. But then after that, if he's healthy and continues to develop, just make the progression. And it starts here. Because this is a chance for him to figure out where his stuff is, what he needs to do, get the extra mileage on the arm and the shoulder, and really hopefully have something to feel good about, or at least to work on as he goes into spring training.
And when you're in the minor leagues, any opportunity is what you're wanting, because I talked to Jonathan Ornelas just before the season ended, and his plan is winter ball. So
right.
It's like there is a point in time that yes, you maybe had the season that you want, but you still just have to put in the work until you're at the level that you want to be. And I think a lot of people that maybe don't keep a super close eye on baseball think after the season, oh, the work's over. Not the case. And with minor leagues, you're excited to receive opportunities to continue to play baseball.
Sure. Yeah, this is a big honor, and obviously these guys are well thought of by the organization. Otherwise, they would be at home right now, chilling out. And but the organization sees an opportunity for them and a purpose for them to be here to help further their careers and then to ultimately help out the big league club. I mean, Skylar Hales throws 102.
Yeah.
All right. But he's only had one full professional season, so he has things to work on. But when you see 102, you're thinking, all right, you see Mason Miller doing it for the A's. Clase, obviously more guys than ever throwing 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But for a chance to get him ready and shoot, next year if you need a guy and he's on,
Yeah, it'd be nice to have him good to
get a
go.
power arm, bring it in, and see what happens. Just even if it's just for a week,
Right.
just to hold the fort down for somebody, or maybe it's come up in September because he's been so great, and then you have like a Jackson Jobe power arm in the bullpen like the Tigers do that you can bring in and somebody who's never
The
been
big
seen,
leaguers won't know
never
what
been
hit
seen
him.
before.
Oh yeah.
And go out there and see how it plays.
So will you be doing any coverage of the fall league?
Yeah. Like Cody is a friend of the weekly podcast. We're trying to get Skylar Hales on next week. Today was their media day, so we weren't able to do a show today. But Avery Weems is a friend of the show, so yeah, definitely check in on these guys, see how they're doing, and always something to write about with a major league organization, even if it's in the minor leagues.
All right. Well, plenty more to talk about. The Reds did hire a brand new manager, but not new
He's
to
not
the
brand
game
new.
of
Yeah.
baseball. Brand new to the Cincinnati. Well, not even really. Anyway, we'll get more into it coming up on the DLLS Rangers podcast. So we already told you about becoming a diehard. Just go ahead and check out the merch while you're at it. When you do join and become a diehard, you get a free shirt. Also, the diehards in our chats, I'm very interested to see which shirt you chose, so let us know. But you get 10% off when you submit your email. We've got plenty of options to choose from. We also have stores with Philly, Denver, Phoenix, and Chicago. So if you do have friends and family there, be sure to check that out. You can also purchase a gift card. Holidays are coming up.
That's
so
right.
put it on your list and go ahead and check out the merch. It's really affordable. It's comfortable. It's good stuff.
We've got, and if you've got friends and family in our sister network cities with Denver, where my family resides, Phoenix,
Philly,
Chicago, Philadelphia, help them out, get them on board, get them on the ALLCITY train.
And then Jeff writes tons of exclusive content. You have anything new coming up? New and secretive?
We're going to start the long process of the off season. Is the first step is looking back at the season, which we've done 1,000 times. It kind of look individual position by position, and I could start in a number of places. I have stuff on just about every position, so we can do that. The manager's very fired up for 2025 here when he's about to turn 70.
He's the best,
and he's ready to keep going and plugging away. It's in his blood. He can't get rid of it. So those will be diehard member stories. Again, $79.99. It's cheaper than the Fort Worth newspaper, which is a birdcage liner these days. The morning news, very expensive. Don't just fall for the $1 a month thing, because eventually that ends and they hit you on the backside. But good stuff coming up, so stick around with us. Plus this dang podcast 5 days a week, baby.
We're having fun.
Yeah.
We haven't ran out of things to talk about
Not yet.
All right. So big in baseball news. One of the best managers in a while. Terry Francona, 23-year career, 2-time World Series champion with 2004 and 7 Boston Red Sox.
Yeah.
3 times pennant, 3-time manager of the year. He became the winningest manager in Cleveland history, going 921 to 757, 6 postseason appearances in 11 years. He is now back in the game of baseball.
Yeah, I am not surprised by the news. He didn't take as long off as Bruce Bochy did, but taking only 1 year off.
He pulled a Bruce.
He did. Terry's the new Reds manager, and if you're following the game closely, the Reds have there's a lot of reason
Rising
for optimism.
stars.
They were a disappointing team, I thought, this year, but they have some young talent. They have one of the more exciting players in the game, and Ellie De La Cruz. Their pitching staff has the former TCU left-hander Nick Lodolo, who battled some injuries this year, but he's a big strikeout guy, 6'5" lefty. Try to keep him healthy, and so there's pieces there. And Terry played for the Reds, I think, for 1 year.
Yes, he did.
In
1987.
His career, opposite side of the state from Cleveland, opposite league, but they'll still play each other. He's just, he's always going to be remembered as the Red Sox manager who ended the World Series drought and the curse of the Bambino in 2004 by leading the Red Sox to the title there. And doing it again in '07, beating the Rockies. Went with the Guardians in 16, losing out to the Cubs in a great Game 7, fabulous Game 7. Um, so he's still got it. These guys just don't lose it. Um, Terry's father, Tito Francona, was a major leaguer, and so he's been around the game his whole life. He was a
He played
Ranger.
for
He was a Rangers assistant coach before moving on, and I think it was the early 2000s. He was a assistant coach for the Rangers. So it's just in his blood. The Reds and the Indian. God dang it, the Reds and the Guardians share a spring training facility in Arizona, so he's going to know the lay of the land there. He's probably pretty familiar with the Reds have anyway. But yeah, so that's one managerial opening that's closed. I think the White Sox don't want to stick with Grady Sizemore, who was their interim. I believe the Marlins need to hire somebody. Sounds like the Mariners are going to stick with Dan Wilson if he wants the job. So not a lot of these jobs come open.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you see guys like Ron Washington, my buddy, who took the Angels job. It's one of 30, and
Yeah.
if you want to manage, sometimes you don't get to
You
choose
don't
the
get the
Yankees.
premier.
Yeah. So, but I just think that I don't know who's going to end up there in Miami and White Sox. Gosh, what a tough job you have ahead of you. Hopefully, it's a young, patient person, whoever they do, but also somebody who can teach. And then there's some GM openings too, and this caught me off guard this morning. Thad Levine resigned from his GM job with the Twins, and Thad was John Daniels' first hire when JD got the Rangers job. Thad was working with the Rockies. They'd met with the Rockies. JD hired Thad to come and be one of his top lieutenants, and Thad's a great guy. I really like Thad. The organization really liked Thad. He was, I don't want to say good cop, bad cop situation, but he's just good.
Mm-hmm.
And they moved to Minnesota, he and his family. It was a family move. They wanted to raise their kids there. Their kids are a little older now, so maybe he comes back. The Rangers have an opening in their front office. I don't know how well Thad and Chris Young know each other. I'm sure Chris Young has some thoughts on
Small baseball world.
who we might want to hire for that. But I know some people, and when I posted it on the Twitter today, they were like, "Hey, next Rangers GM, it's possible. It seems like a lateral move."
Mm-hmm.
The Twins in their release said that is going to pursue opportunities inside the game and out of it. I'm sure he would be welcome back. I really hope he learned a lot. The Twins are financially handicapped by their cheap ownership, and they're good. They just fell apart late. But he wasn't like the head guy. It's kind of like he was second in command there behind Derek Falvey. Maybe he goes to Miami. Maybe he takes over somewhere else that has a GM opening.
Well, Coop did say the Marlins need to clear out entirely.
Yeah.
Where do you think Skip will land?
I don't know if Skip's going to land.
Skip's going to keep on skipping.
He apparently was in the mix for this job, the Reds job, that is. So I'm sure that
oh man,
somewhere Skip will get a job again. But it's hard, if you go somewhere and like Chris Woodward, the manager before Bruce Bochy. I mean, he didn't have a winning season. The Rangers were terrible. It was intentional. It wasn't his fault. But is he ever going to get another job? I don't know. And you hope they do. You hope these guys get a second chance and a chance where they have an opportunity to be successful. Chris never really had that. 19, the team was teetering on rebuild or contend, and they weren't bad. And then 20, they decided to go ahead and start tearing it all down. And then 21 and 22, the guy didn't have a chance. So you can always be grateful for Chris Woodward and his ability to woo Corey Seager, because he and Corey are pals, And Corey learned a lot about defense from Chris Woodward, and Chris Woodward was a big reason why Corey agreed to come to the Rangers.
Yeah. And just to wrap up the Reds, David Bell, they needed to make a change there because in 6 seasons, he never had a winning record. The highest that they finished was 3rd in the National League Central outside of the pandemic shortened season. So
Okay,
do you
yeah.
even really count it? No. But, to your point, the Reds do have such great young, talented players and
Yeah.
could be on the rise. So, what does this do for the Reds organization, have this kind of manager in that position?
Well, it'll definitely help in free agency. Hey, I get to go play for Terry Francona. Great.
Sign me up.
It's kind of, he brings credibility like Bruce Bochy does. Guys are going to listen to Terry Francona. When he goes into that first meeting for spring training, the first team meeting, everyone's going to listen, just like they did with Bruce Bochy. I remember after the first spring meeting, nobody said what was said, but they're like, we're ready to go. We're ready to, run through a wall for this guy. And Terry's the same way. And it's going to be, it's good to have him back in the game. He's 65, so he's younger than Bruce. He had some medical issues with the Guardians, so I'm assuming he's had those checked out and everything's okay and straightened out, and he's ready to go for 3 more years. Wow.
3 years, and he has an option to go into 2028 even.
Well, there you go.
All right, another change. The Diamondbacks, they fire the pitching coach,
all of them,
and the staff.
Brent Strom was the pitching coach, and if you've followed the Rangers, that Brent Strom was the Astros pitching coach for their good years there, and their pitching just wasn't very good this year, and
reportedly stated that held the team back.
Well, Merrill Kelly was hurt. That was a problem. But their other starters, their young starters, didn't develop like they needed to, and they had some veteran guys. Of course, they have Jordan Montgomery. I don't think you can pin his struggles on Brent Strom, but something is changing there, and we already heard from the owner how pissed off he is at Jordan Montgomery, and what a terrible deal that was.
He's like, I hate the pitching staff.
So,
we're good.
So you know what? I think some other people had to pay for that one, and the owner can't fire himself, so it ended up being the pitching coach. Brent's an older guy, so maybe it was time anyway, but we'll see how that shakes out. Pretty interesting that on the heels of the comments about Jordan Montgomery, the pitching coach is gone a few days later.
Yeah, no doubt. And then lastly, to wrap up, the Astros, a few free agents coming up. Justin Verlander, top of the list. And then Alex Bregman, like we mentioned before, their GM had some words to say.
Yeah, Dana Brown said that they're going to have to get creative with their payroll, and you never like to hear your general manager say that. Now, the Astros had the 3rd highest payroll this year. They are losing some big money off the books, but in addition to needing to sign or decisions on whether to sign Bregman and Verlander, they also have 2 huge arbitration guys in Framber Valdez and Kyle Tucker, and they're both gonna make $20 million, north of $20 million. So you got to build that into your payroll. And I think I saw on MLB Trade Rumors where when you add the pre-arbitration guys, the Astros are already at $212 million. So does that give you room to sign both guys, Verlander and Bregman? I don't know that it does. And Jim Crane, the owner, has never given out a larger than a 6-year deal. Well, Alex Bregman's probably going to want more than 6 years. He's only 30, so 6, 7, 8 years. Honestly, probably not 8, but 6 or 7 is definitely feasible, realistic. So are the Astros going to want to do that?
Kyle Tucker is younger than Alex Bregman,
right? So you're going to, and then do you want to extend? Would you rather have Kyle Tucker or Alex Bregman? Would you rather have Framber Valdez or I don't know, a 1-year deal for Justin Verlander? 1-year deal doesn't really hurt anybody, but you got to consider if you want to extend those guys more than you do Bregman. So there's just a lot there, and the Dana Brown said we may have to plug in some young players. Okay, fine, but the Astros again have the worst farm system in baseball. So it's not like they have just
you love reiterating
just
that.
this gigantic pool
Yeah.
of talent ready to come in and start kicking ass in the major leagues. They have some questions to answer. So
Yeah.
And then if you do that, where's your depth? So
Right.
they have issues, and it sounds like payroll is going to be
They have issues, and it
smaller.
started with a snap streak to the ALCS. One question:
Okay.
who do you think is more bang for their buck, Verlander or Scherzer at this point?
Jeez, I don't know. I mean, they both had similar seasons. I don't know. It's a draw. It's a draw.
Really?
I would if I had to say, I would say Scherzer.
Okay.
Just because he seems to be more in touch with what's going on with his body, and seems he is younger, albeit by a year. But I would go with Scherzer.
But isn't it interesting though, the top guys? I mean, you're like $43 million you're talking about, and then you're also asking the question, well, who can give you the most juice? You know?
Yeah. Well, they're
They
not
are-
much younger
hey,
than me.
Father
so
Time.
that's right.
Right.
Undefeated.
Yes. So anyway, great episode today. Thank you guys for chiming along. We're going to be talking to you guys all next week about postseason some more, and just running through all the off-season content.
There we go.
Yeah. All right. It's going to do it for us at the DLS Rangers podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.